I have been to rehab 7 times. Yes, 7 times. Well, actually, 6 times. One of those was a trip to the mental health wing of the hospital, but I digress. The experience of going through rehab, addiction, and all the mess that came with it has taught me a thing or two about the real world. The first thing it has taught me is that nothing is perfect, and anyone expecting perfection is always going to be disappointed. The second thing it taught me is that expectations suck, and the third thing it taught me was personal responsibility. Responsibility is defined as the state or fact of having a duty to deal with something or of having control over someone, perhaps the authority to be a team leader or manager. It could also be defined as a moral obligation to behave correctly toward or in respect of something, such as respect for society by controlling your personal behavior. Each of us has a responsibility to face our personal problems and issues head on, and until you do, you will never learn from your mistakes, so you will never grow, and shall remain in a permanent state of adolescence, which is where we find the state of modern Hollywood, if not the entire modern world, and we're going to talk about it right now on Ugly Review. A recent Film Threat article has raised a lot of eyebrows in the industry. It details a report from an anonymous screenwriter who reveals just how inexperienced and irresponsible Hollywood has become. Beginning in 2019, Hollywood began a rush to hire wave after wave of young and diverse individuals in an attempt to virtue signal and show the entire world just how inclusive and accepting they really are. That is, if you agree with the approved message and have the acceptable characteristics. Meritocracy was now a thing of the past, and talent no longer mattered outside of the top 1 or 2% of those in the rarefied air who don't have to beg for work. Skin color, gender, sexual orientation, and political affiliation were now the priority, setting aside story development, character arc, world building, and audience engagement. Hollywood had fully embraced the ESG of BlackRock and the worldview of Twitter and TikTok, so it was no surprise when the product began to suffer mightily. Just look at the amount of movies undergoing reshoots because of inexperience and incompetence. Bob Iger, the CEO of the beleaguered Disney, recently came out and publicly stated the Marvels would have been better if there had been more executives on set to supervise. If I didn't know any better, I would swear that Bob is saying a black woman can't get anything done without white people telling her what to do, but that's just me. People like Nia DaCosta are not hired because they have a good history of making successful films. They are cast because of their physical characteristics and personal affiliations. People who haven't earned their station in life are being handed the keys to the kingdom and believe that they deserve it because their entire life has been a bubble that has done nothing but tell them how perfect and special they are. They fully believe this is how the world works because they don't know anything else. They view anyone living outside of LA or a major metropolitan area as deplorable, and any language online that may hurt their feelings must be defeated and punishable under the rule of law. And speaking of online, I don't think I need to tell anyone that social media can be an echo chamber for narcissism and narrow-minded thinking. It is quite easy for one to curate a social media feed that only supports a very specific worldview, one that trims away anything outside of the approved narrative or anything that may cause a negative feeling or emotion. This is right in line with the easy way out mindset of our modern world. If the only message you ever see on a daily basis is one of agreement and acceptance, then how will you react when someone disagrees with you and you face rejection? How will you have developed the skills necessary to overcome hardship and challenge if you don't have the life experience? If you never leave the bubble of LA, San Francisco, and Twitter, then you will never share in the reality that the vast majority of the world experiences on a daily basis. I'll give you a personal example. I spent many years working in the restaurant industry, and for several of those years, I was a delivery driver. Whenever my wife and I order food for delivery, I always tip the driver a little extra because I know that getting a little extra cash could change their day for the better. I know what it's like to be in their shoes. My life experience has changed my worldview and brought me closer to another person. We may not send each other Christmas cards, but there is a connection. And it's certainly no guarantee that working in any given industry will automatically make you sympathetic to the cause, but understanding the everyday struggles of the average person has a way of giving you a different perspective on life. And it is through these different and shared perspectives that we connect through telling stories. Iron Man is an incredibly popular character, not because he is perfect, but because he is flawed. Many times we see Tony Stark struggle, fail, struggle some more, and then succeed because of his stubbornness, hard work, determination, and belief that he can be better, all things that the average person can relate to. When people see Captain Marvel getting a 100% on every test or becoming the bestest ever after only one try, we scoff because it's unrealistic. There is no struggle, there is no arc, there is no personal journey similar to our own. When we see others experience a journey much like ours, we can empathize. And because modern writers have never left their safe little bubble, the only people they can empathize with are other people in the same bubble. A good number of these people have been weaponized against the very audience for which they are making a product. The Rings of Power was a smorgasbord of diverse, untalented bigots who couldn't accept the folly of their actions. Rather than admit they had created a far inferior product to Professor Tolkien, they went on the attack, and anyone who dared criticize the monumental disaster called Rings of Power was instantly labeled a racist, sexist, or any number of slurs. Perhaps the biggest difference lies in the authors of the respective works. It's often said that the writers will only write what they know, and if you have a smart writer, you will have a smart script. Professor Tolkien was born at the end of the Industrial Revolution and bore witness to unimaginable change. He also served in World War I and fought during the infamous Battle of the Somme, where he bore witness to unimaginable horrors. Compare that with the Rings of Power duo, J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, who grew up during peacetime with all of life's amenities, attended private schools, and have been fronted millions and millions of dollars to produce a show that is absolute rubbish. What's the difference? Experience. Professor Tolkien was not sheltered. He did not have the luxury of delaying personal growth or putting it off entirely. The world needed able-bodied young men to get to work in order to survive, and he needed the experience that life had to offer. Young people still need this experience, but as the world has become smaller, thanks in large part to the advent of things like the internet, it can become easy to believe that you may not have a place in the world because that place is already taken. It is at times like these that one must dig deep and gather all the resolve that you can muster and not wait for someone to give you approval or become disenfranchised because someone didn't ask you for your pronouns. I would not blame JD or Patrick entirely for their lack of experience, as I'm sure they were raised in a fairly sheltered manner. We have a duty to embrace the pain of struggle because it is a lesson that we pass on to our children, and by avoiding this lesson, we do them and our world a great disservice. They must learn to face adversity head on. A society does not, in and of itself, create a strong people, but a strong people will, in fact, build a strong society. A great pillar of society is culture, which could be defined as the arts and achievements of a particular group of people. And if our culture aims to cultivate weakness, chooses to ignore reality, and never grow up, then what does that say about our society? It can and will become a self-fulfilling prophecy if we do not learn to truly embrace personal responsibility. Modern writers believe their only responsibility is to diversity, inclusion, and representation, constantly telling us that it's important to hear everyone's voice, but never telling us why. I am a straight white male, and everyone in this country has the same opportunities to speak as I do. But if you talk for a while and no one listens, or people start walking the other way and no one seems to care, they probably don't agree with what you're saying, and people have the right to not participate in your madness. This doesn't make them bigots, it just makes them people who disagree with you. Your inability to deal with the hardship of rejection is not a problem for the rest of the world, it's a problem for you. And you will never overcome this problem until you decide to accept personal responsibility and grow up. There's a reason some of us are afraid for the future. We are leaving it in the hands of children who are drugged up, dumbed down, and prefer the safety of restriction over the danger of freedom. Yes, freedom is dangerous and messy, but if we all accept that we must deal with our problems as adults, then we have a good chance at building a better world. It will never be perfect, but we can always make progress. If life has taught me anything, it's that there is no substitute for hard work and experience. No one is going to live your life for you, and no one should. Hell, if you're busy dealing with your own problems, how would you ever have time for anyone else's problems? Which is right where we should be, focusing on improving ourselves as individuals, and in so doing, we will improve our world as a whole. Hi guys, my name is Andrew, and I would like to thank you for watching this episode of Ugly Review. If you enjoyed what you heard, please hit the like, share, subscribe, the little notification bell thingy, wherever it is on your screen. I would appreciate that. I'm going to try to come out with at least one video about every 7 to 10 days. I still have a 9-to-5 job, so, I've got to work it in where I can. But once again, I would like to say thank you for all of your support, and I hope you enjoyed. So until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other, and never stop telling stories. See you guys.